Hi, and welcome to the Feel Good Always podcast. I'm Becky Bradley, and this is real stories of love, connection, and remembering who we are. I'm here with my friend Kellie Glessner. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're here.
I'm so grateful to be here.
Yeah, so if you're new here, I want to say that the Feel Good Always podcast, it's really a transmission bringing us into these higher levels of consciousness. The story behind how it started is that my daughter, Kara Bradley, she was in a fatal UTV accident at 15 years old. And as tragic as the grief around that was, the unbelievable pain, it really opened me up to the connection to her and everything and everyone. And I was led to do this podcast because as I was opening up, really experiencing a massively higher level of consciousness, I was being shown things that I just really couldn't believe. And this podcast is that. It is bringing forward people to share this message, not only through the words, but through the frequency, the energy of what we will be saying. It's not only the words, but the energy behind it. And that the people listening, not only do they hear what they need to hear, but almost being activated into this beautiful energy, which is moving into the new earth, the higher levels, what I have experienced. And that's what we're doing here today. And if you're listening, it's not by accident. You know, I don't believe it's by accident. I believe we find each other, and I surrender that these messages will find whoever they need to find. And so, Kellie, you are one of the people that has found me in this lifetime, that we have found each other. And I'm just really excited about sharing your story. And I want to say that for anyone that's listening, your story is around grief. Your story is around surrender. And we'll probably most likely be talking a lot about, death and the fear of death and what that means, right? And there's so much more to you, but I feel like that's what we will be talking about today. But we will see, because I surrender to whatever needs to come through. So I want to introduce you through a little bio, and then we will get started. So Kellie Glessner is a mother, homesteader, homeschooler, and deeply reflective human on a lifelong journey of remembering what truly matters. Originally pursuing a PhD, Kellie's life shifted profoundly when she became pregnant with her first son, an experience she knew in her body the moment that it happened. Motherhood became her greatest teacher, opening her into a living inquiry of birth, embodiment, connection, and the sacred intelligence woven through all of life. Through raising her children, discovering Steiner Waldorf education, navigating marriage, relocation, community, loss, and profound transformation, Kellie's path has been one of deep listening and continual surrender. The journey of walking beside her mother through illness and death became a sacred initiation for Kellie, offering her an embodied understanding of surrender, love beyond form, and the enduring connection that exists across generations and realms. Today, Kellie and her family steward a small homestead, homeschool their children, and live in close relationship with the rhythms of nature and a beloved menagerie of animals. She is devoted to slowing life down, honoring the sacredness of childhood, tending relationships with reverence, and sharing what has been revealed through lived experience rather than ideology. Kellie is currently birthing a creative offerings rooted in trust, slowness, and remembering, including her upcoming homeschool ebook, You're Not Doing It Wrong, Reflections on Learning, Trust, and Raising Whole Humans, and another project exploring sacred slowness in early childhood. She is also feeling a call towards ancestral connection, shared study, and community gatherings as part of what is unfolding next. At her core, Kellie is here to remind us that we are divine, connected beings, and that heaven is not somewhere we go, but something we can tend together right here on earth.
So good.
I am so lucky to be here with you. So beautiful, like just such a beautiful human being. And that's all of the things about you. Plus there's so much more than our bios. Why don't you talk about how we've met, you meet me, because this was about 5 years ago that you came into my life.
Yeah. We first met at Envision Feminine Leadership Women's Circle, IFL. That's what I remember.
Yes.
Yes, and it was kind of post-COVID. People were starting to get together in person, and I was so nervous. I had never been in a group that size before, but I felt such a calling to go. And I remember showing up and us all sharing and just my voice shaking. And I remember when you spoke, I was just like, wow, who's that? She's so anchored. She's so powerful. And from that moment, I felt this connection anytime we'd see each other out in the world. Yeah, there were just many moments of just interactions that I would be so grateful every time we could connect.
Yes, the feeling is mutual. So this Envision Feminine Leadership, I want to say also, this was a birth from Andrea. It was her program, which I've had Andrea on the podcast several times. And we're all coming out of COVID. And it's interesting that I seem so anchored because I think at the time I was definitely going through a lot of childhood stuff, processing stuff, obviously processing COVID and everything that had happened then. And it was perfect timing for us all together to come together. And I was watching you really grow and blossom and have watched you over the last 5 years as you've come into all of these new things that you're learning about yourself. So the interesting thing, how you and I become connected. So obviously Kira, my daughter Kira, dies and you and I did not talk. I mean, this was something that really rocked an entire community, everyone around us, of course. And there, when something like this happens, like for me, you realize just how many people you're connected to because people are reaching out or whatever. And I know that a lot of people maybe felt like they didn't know what to say because it was so, horrible. It's the, worst thing that you kind of wanted to reach out to me and didn't. And that is very common. This is something that happens. You didn't know what to say, but we found each other anyways. And so if you want to tell that part of that story.
Yeah. So like you said, the moment I found out about Kira passing, I was with my mom, and it was a lightning bolt moment that I will never forget because I was visiting her as she was going through chemo, helping take care of her, and I gasped and she said, "Oh, what's wrong?" I remember she was sitting where I was, and I told her what happened, and I started crying, and that moment it's just etched in me. And from there was this desire. I mean, you felt like you were always circulating in my mind, and I found this card that really resonated. I'm like, I'm going to send her this card. I'm going to write her a note. And then I wanted to show up to the memorial, but I didn't know. I was like, I don't know because I didn't really know Kira. I'm not super close with Becky. I feel connected. I feel deeply connected, but we're not casual friends. We're not hanging out all the time. And so it just felt, it just didn't feel right. I just didn't feel like it was the right thing. And so I stayed back. And there were times where I would be out in the world and I'd like see Mike or I'd see Lila and I'd be like, oh, that's Becky's daughter. That's Becky's husband, and I'd be like, is Becky here? So I felt like I wanted to see you and connect, but I was just waiting for the moment. And and then when we ran into each other, we did the sadhana together, the 40-day sadhana through Eastwind last year. So this was last year. Around this same time, I had just experienced a very intense moment in our family where my daughter had an accident. She fell off her bike, and we didn't know, but she was bleeding internally for many hours. She ruptured her spleen, and it ended up being an emergency situation where she was rushed to the hospital, emergency procedure to stop the bleeding, and she was in the ICU for 5 days. Mm-hmm. And that was in the midst of the sadhana. And throughout that first night being in the ICU with her, there was a moment where it was really scary. Her fever was spiking. She had already had 2 blood transfusions. They were saying they were probably going to give her another one. They wanted to get the fever down. And my husband wasn't with me. He was home with the kids, and I couldn't get in touch with him. And it was so much. And I have to be calm for my daughter. I have to be an anchor here in this moment. She was so scared and looking to me, asking me, am I dying? Am I going to die? And I just remember calling to my mom and asking for support. And when I could feel my mom, I also felt Kira. And I was so shocked because I didn't know Kira. And I was like, I didn't even question it. This is me afterwards. In the moment, I just felt it. And I was so grateful. And it was an overwhelming feeling of, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. And I just felt that even though all the signs were telling me it's not going to be okay, my daughter has a fever, they're giving her more blood, I can't get a hold of my husband, it was everything's going to be okay. And I just kept telling Sylvia, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. Your body knows just what to do. Everything's going to be okay. And so we have that experience. For 5 days, we're in there. And Sadhana's coming up that weekend. And I didn't know why. It's like, it makes no sense for me to go. I'm a wreck, but I'm going to go to this sadhana class. And I see you in the circle. I kind of got in a little bit late. There was a lot of people in the yoga studio. And I'm like, oh, Becky's here. Oh my gosh, maybe I'll get to connect with her. And so after the experience, there were so many people around you. And I was like, oh, no, this isn't the time. So I get into the car, I drive away, not even planning to stop at Trader Joe's. Randomly, I stopped at Trader Joe's to get cat treats, of all things, because they have these cat treats that our cats like. I'm like, I'm going to stop in and get cat treats. So I pull in there, and which I think was mostly, well, I needed to connect with you. And I also was just like, I just need more time to be out. That was such an intense experience, being nonstop in the ICU for 5 days and getting Sylvia home. And so I get the cat treats, and then I'm just sort of wandering the aisles. I got a few things, and I was heading to check out. But then I thought, there's one other thing that I wanted to get. And I'm like, I wonder where that is in this Trader Joe's. And I turn around, I backtrack, I go around and go down this aisle that I'd already gone. And there's no reason for me to go down this aisle. And then there you are.
There I am.
There you are.
I'm everywhere.
And I was like, oh my gosh, Becky.
Yes. And so what happens now is, so you've experienced, first of all, when you find out about Kira, you're with your mom.
Yes.
So she died of cancer, and we will talk about this, your mom, Billy.
Yes.
And then your daughter is in the ICU, and you have not connected me. So it's almost a year later. You've run into Mike and Lila, my husband and my daughter. And at this point, we're in another kind of like a 40-day thing together, which I'm kind of coming in and out of because I had been traveling to Costa Rica, and it was a somatic workshop, which is moving energy through your body, which we need to do all the time. And at this point, people are finding me everywhere. At this point, I know, I'm like, oh, they're finding me. It could be in Trader Joe's. So I'm standing there talking with a deep knowing of, just batting my eyes, like, of course you're here. Because your daughter was just in the hospital. Your daughter just almost died. And you tell me at that point that the part about feeling like, I never knew Kira here on Earth, but she was here. And I was hearing this from a lot of people at that time. So my life was showing me a lot of people that were connected to Kira that never met her, which was confusing for people. And so it's something I say a lot today, which is we are all connected beyond space and time. We think that it's just about this lifetime. It has nothing to do with that. We are all connected. And Kira, her soul, her role here, her ability to connect to people like what you're talking about is part of what's helping wake people up. And then me seeing it kind of happen and to be able to say, yes, of course she was there. And that's why that moment of, beyond just this 15-year-old has been in an accident was so profound for you. And that of course you were with your mother in the moment, because your mother ends up being another catalyst for this really big awakening that you're having. And also a mirrored experience, because, and this is just a theme that's happening for me right now and continues, it's like a twin theme, and you have twin boys, but I see twins everywhere. I see mirrored experiences because we're always kind of mirroring each other. And if you fast forward 5 months later from this experience that Sylvie has, I am placed in the exact position that you were with my daughter, thinking she's going to die. My daughter Maddie was in the hospital and had a burst appendix that had burst 3 weeks earlier, and had been in 9-day hospital stay, white blood cell count just skyrocketing after surgery. So when you describe what you're describing now, I'm like, yes. So how do you stay calm in the midst of the evidence, especially in a medical setting? The evidence is not good. It feels the energy there's not great. To stay rooted and grounded. And what you're describing to me is similar to what happened with me, which is it's beyond Becky Bradley's, it was a help from something bigger. This energy that comes in, especially as a mother that's trying to help the child that's like, I'm going to die, and it's a really intense experience. I know you had it, and I also had it too, which for me, I was like looking at my higher self, my life, my soul, and I'm like, wow, you're so extra. Because I've already experienced my child dying. The one thing that I didn't experience was her being afraid she was going to die, because Kira died really fast and never knew, which is, you know, if you're looking for things to be grateful for, it was something I was grateful for, because in her conscious experience as Kira Bradley on Earth, she never knew. Which, you know, there are definitely lots of people that have experienced their children dying, or anyone dying, that know. And I know you can share that experience of your mother knowing she was going to die. And that is hard to watch somebody. And so when I was watching Maddie, I was like kind of watching as I know this life is all kind of a dream. Like, why am I seeing this? You know, why am I having to experience this? And what is this showing me? At the same time as like, oh my gosh, I hope she's going to be okay. But I surrender that even in telling your child that she's going to be okay, we surrender what that means.
Yeah, exactly. I had that same feeling when I would say those words to Sylvia. I tried my absolute hardest to be in total surrender with whatever needed to happen was going to happen. And so when you say that, that's with truth. It's not knowing that you're going to get healthy and better again. But I do have trust. I would say what I knew was true is I have trust in your body and doing exactly what it needs to do. And what was interesting about that experience is that you wouldn't wish that on anyone. And there were so many gifts that came with it, that being one of the biggest ones, that experience of the first evening and the surrender and feeling the support of just knowing we're not alone. And that was the catalyst for the rest of our days there. There were every day, it was so much like we are so supported from like the nurses that would show up that were equestrians, you know, or another nurse like that. We had a red light machine and I had like a frequency device and all these things that would come in and we're like, oh, that's so cool. You have one of those. Or I just did my red light this morning. I was like, who are you people showing up here? And there was a chaplain that came in that Sylvia just connected with, and he was so great with her, and then a harpist, you know, came in one day.
You
and
just can't make this stuff
yeah,
up.
and like her music teacher, I shared a video of the harpist. He's like, oh my gosh, that's my friend, her voice teacher at the time, and it was so clear. Like at the end, a nurse gave her this book about a horse, a rescue horse that ends up being this world champion jumper. It's a super inspiring story. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, we are so supported. And then a few months later, she gets her own rescue horse.
I love it. So, yeah, same thing happens when Maddie was in the hospital. One of the nurses, like, finally says to us, I know you guys from somewhere. I'm like, of course. And Maddie's like, yeah, my mom knows everyone. But it turned out that she was Kira and Lila's gymnastics coach. Of course she was. And she enters the room within 5 minutes of the sepsis alert for Maddie, right? We realize she is connected to Kira 5 minutes before she does Maddie's vitals, which indicated potential sepsis. So all of that is connected. Yeah. It's like we are here, and then, you know, and then ultimately Maddie finally gets better after a dog comes in and sits with her, which I believe the animals are so part of this. And you and I actually, when I think about our lives together, because I always am seeing the connections. Where we would see each other was at Tevis, which is a 100-mile horse race in our town. And that's where I would see you on that street, Bath Street, coming in. And that we both have this beautiful connection to horses, which is freedom. I was at the horse barn. I spent a couple years before Kira died, really immersed in horse world, had 3 horses. One of them's name is Magical. She's the only one I have left. And of course her name is Magical. That I was at the barn the night that Kira died. And I had spent the whole 2 years there. And the barn overlooks the property where she died. I literally had been staring out over the property for 2 years ahead of this. And none of this is coincidence, you know, and the horses, the connection to all of the animals, how you and I find each other, kind of like how we come in and out of each other's lives. And now what happens is you and I meet at Trader Joe's, which I remembered that this morning. And then of course I was at Trader Joe's day before yesterday, and the girl that helped me out at Trader Joe's, her name was Kira, and then of course this morning I'm like, yeah, our initial connection back to each other was in Trader Joe's, and then it's really skyrocketed from there. We have shared a lot of intertwining signs. As I get things from Kira, you get things from your mom, and we share back and forth our higher selves, and really just in a short period of time I've had a lot. And that was why I wanted to have you on here, because I'm watching you really awaken, right? I'm awakening too. We're all awakening. But I love that we're kind of doing it side by side. And then when I go back and I look at our lives together, and that, you know, that of course you were with your mom when you see this Kira. Kira was always going to come in for you, even when she was here on Earth, because it's all this little blueprint that we're doing. And for me, it's beyond Kira. It's beyond me.
Yeah.
This is, yes, of course, I'm trying to help people, but it's so much, much more than that. We're moving into a higher level of consciousness, and we're doing it together, thankfully. Like, I'm so grateful for you and all the people. We're doing it together so that I don't feel like I'm losing my mind as I'm connecting all of these things, and that for whatever reason, we're forerunners in this energy, and through suffering. Yeah. I know for you and for your mom. And the one thing I was saying about death, I didn't want to talk about death before this. Death makes you uncomfortable. I had a fear of dying. Of course, I had a fear that one of my children would die, and it happened. What is this last couple of years really talking about death? I used to say Kira transitioned, and she forced me to say which means I get a lot of signs to start saying the word death, not because she didn't transition, because when someone leaves their body, they do transition. The energy transitions into something else. So I like that because I wanted people to understand. So I use that word, transition. And she really encouraged me through a lot of signs to start saying death, because I needed to redefine what death meant, because death didn't mean what I thought it meant. It's over. You're done, or we're never together, or that death means that I have to wait to be with you again. I have to wait till I die to be with you. And it has nothing to do with it. We don't have to wait. And I know that because the second that Kira left this earth, the signs were they were coming in ahead of time. They were coming for years, and it got really intense the couple weeks before. And it just shows me that everything's happening now, that we're so connected beyond space and time, and redefining death. And so a lot of what I would like to talk about with you is your experience with your mother, her fear of death, and just how this experience has transformed you, and in your own awakening and your own observing yourself in these fears.
Yeah. I had the same feeling afterwards when she did die, just naturally, it felt very natural to use the word transition, because to me, that's what it was. And I wanted people to feel that too. All the people who were saying, who had this feeling of it being so final and she's not here anymore, that word felt like it was an invitation for them to imagine something different. And so for a long time, I did only say transition. I would never say die. Now I use both. It's kind of just depending on the situation. But yeah, my mom was a powerhouse of a person. She was like one of those, if there's a problem, I'm going to solve it. I'm going to fix it. She was the opposite of a Debbie Downer. She would kind of be like, oh, that person's a Debbie Downer. She's just like glass half full. Like, I can do anything. She broke out of a very, just her childhood was hard, and her family had a certain energy, and she was like the first person to break out of that and decide, I want something more out of life. And so that's just, and then so from that point on, it just, people gravitated to my mom. They had a problem, she was going to be the listening ear. She was going to be the one that helped them solve it. And so when she came upon cancer in her body and found out that she had breast cancer, it was that same, I got this. I'm going to do this. Like, this isn't stopping me. No way. And she was like, I'm not even going to talk about that possibility. And in the beginning, that seemed logical because it was very, it was very early diagnosis. All these studies showed, they give you all these statistics and numbers. You do this X, Y, and Z, you're good. And so that was never part of the conversation. And she did all the things that she felt like she wanted to do. And from the very beginning, it was very interesting for me because I would have chosen so different. And so it was a slow learning of sharing and then realizing like, oh, this is her journey. It's like, this is a repeating thing over and over and over. And so when the cancer came back a few years later, and it was a little bit more progressive, and then again, there was more treatment, there was more surrendering to this being her journey. Still that attitude of just being like, I got this, I'm a warrior. This is not my time. I'm going to do this and this and this is what the doctors tell me to do, and everything's going to be fine. It's like, okay. And you just want to support, right? I just want to be like, okay, she's so positive. And then when it came back again within a year and it had spread further into her body and she was considered terminal and the doctors recommend palliative care, even then, for her, it was like, I'm not listening to that. That's not my story. And at that point, it was very interesting trying to figure out how to support her because she still wanted to be down this sort of war path. And my brother and I just sort of seeing, and you can feel it. We could feel it in just being with her. Her soul is letting go. Like her body is going, and it was so clear to see, but she couldn't see it and she didn't want to talk about it. And if we ever tried to bring it up to her, even just philosophical conversations about death, we wouldn't even get very straightforward about it. And she'd just be like, nope, I don't want to talk about that. That doesn't make me feel, I don't even want to entertain that idea. And it was, I'm not going anywhere. I have too much life to live. I have too much I want to do. End of story. It was very hard as it got closer and closer, and her body started really struggling to see her go through so much pain and to decide to do things like very invasive surgeries that were so painful to heal from, still taking her to do radiation a week before she passed. Just at this point, she had moved in with us, which I was so grateful for. I'd been trying for years to get her to come and live with us because I thought maybe if she comes, she'll let me take her to acupuncture or she'll let me,
because you were thinking more not Western medicine.
Yeah, or just like integrating. And I'm like, it can be both. I was trying to just open her up to more integrative care. And it was just so that was her journey. That was her comfort zone. It was her journey. And it was the right journey for her.
And you had to surrender what you
Yes.
thought. And then also, it's interesting that I like the idea of saying, I'm not doing this. In the sense of, yeah. But it's like this balance of, do we attach to like, this is a death sentence, but yeah. It's that balance of what we're being asked to do and what's really happening. And this refusal to even look at death, which is what our culture really does. A lot of people, some people are just fine talking about it, but I know this was true for me before Kira died, and now it's just everywhere. I have a different relationship with death. I'm not afraid of death. The fear of your own death to like almost deny it till the very end, which is what sounds like for your mom, which creates for you and your siblings another experience of, like she doesn't even want to talk about this. Yeah. And it's actually death as you describe it. And as I know you've described it to me and you can describe it again. And I also experienced this, when my grandfather died and my grandmother in hospice. Kira died not in this way, but it really was it's like the opposite of birthing, right? Yeah. It is like a birthing process, but you're being birthed onto the other side. And you've described to me that experience with your mom. I think that experience is important to share because, we had Michelle on the podcast too, describing it with her dad. Because it's multiple things. It's multiple things. It's this really hard experience. And then also that sounds like she was connecting and seeing other things like ahead of time because it's like this liminal space, death.
Yeah. Yeah. She, as it came nearer, she would say things to me like, there was one moment where she asked me, am I dying? She had these beautiful flowers sent, and she would say things like, I remember her going, those are funeral flowers. And I thought, what do you mean, Mom? Those are the kind of flowers at funerals. And just little things. She started having visions one day, a couple days before she passed, while she could still speak. She got up and started talking to us about how she was Snow White when she was a little girl in kindergarten in a play. None of us had ever heard that story before, but she was reliving her life. And out of nowhere would say things like that, or say things like, yeah, my aunt had a beautiful red hat. Really, which aunt? Aunt Kathleen. And at another time we were out on the front porch and she was with my brother and she said she saw death across the way, and it actually really scared her. We were like, what does death look like? And she explained a few different things, and to the point where she thought we were kidding her. She got very upset about the whole experience because it scared her. She was like, what's happening? And I think she knew, but she didn't want it to be true. And so when I was putting her down to bed after that experience, I was asking her more about it. I was trying to calm her down a little bit. And I said, maybe when you dream, maybe as you're sleeping, when you dream, you'll get more you'll have more visits. You'll figure out what that was all about. And she was like, well, I hope not. She was like, I hope not. And in her last couple of days, she lost the ability to say anything coherent other than yes or no. She couldn't string together words. As she approached her final hours, she became agitated and started calling to her mom over and over and over again. And she was telling her mom, no, mom, no, mom, no, mom. And as heartbreaking as it was in the aftermath, once she released and let go, it just, for my own personal journey, has so deeply connected me to my grandma and to that whole lineage, because she was there.
Yeah, you felt it.
It was so clear she was there.
Yeah.
And there were even moments in my mom's last week. There was one moment where she was crying in bed, and I came in to check on her. I said, are you okay? What's going on? And she said, oh, I'm just talking to my mom. Sometimes I cry to her, and it helps me feel better. And I was like, okay, well, I'm here if you need me. But, so yeah, it was as hard as it was to see her in such resistance to what was actually happening. Again, I just trusted her soul needed that experience. And I ended up being really grateful that we only had hospice care for a day and that I didn't have the drugs that, typically the end of life drugs that help that people feel more relaxed, because she got to experience her death and experience whatever she needed to in that moment. And we were there with her. I was on one side of her, my husband was on the other side. My brother was also not there in the actual moment, but right after. We were there, and we had been with her for the whole time. And we could just comfort her and tell her it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
It seemed like, yeah, even though you're not going to actually live through this moment, it's still going to be okay.
Yeah. And truly feeling that. It's one thing to say it, but then to truly feel that. And in the moment where my mom asked me if she was going to die, I relive it all the time thinking, should I have said something different? But what I remember saying was something like, we're all going to die, Mom. None of us know when. And this is our journey. We're journeying towards death. And that's how I would try to talk to her about death, even when, as I try to softly bring it up to get her to just be more open to death being an experience that we get to have. And not that you necessarily want to look forward to it or anything, but almost like I just feel like it is like when I had been blessed with the experience of helping my grandma transition and feeling that after she passed, feeling that as I was at her funeral, and I could just see all the light, all the connections, all of people I didn't even know in the crowd. Same at my mom's funeral. And you just feel how deeply connected we are. And it's just so beautiful. It's hard. We've talked about how it's hard not to, especially when we think about our own death. After my mom had her last breath, and we were all with her, and blessed to have her in our home, blessed to have all my children around throughout this whole process. And our two older boys were still awake. And so we let them know that she had passed, and they, came in and were with her for a moment. But then our oldest, Luca, stepped outside, and this is the first sign that came through as a shooting star. Wow. Just shot across the sky. He didn't tell me this until days later, so I had no idea. He's the quieter one. And we had her with us that whole evening, the whole next day. I was in no hurry for her physical body to be gone. We wanted to bathe her, and a friend came over and we oiled her and changed her clothes, and Sylvia painted her toes, and Sylvia made her a scarf for Christmas the year before. And so we wrapped her with it, and it was a beautiful day. And when I stepped out onto the porch at one point, I just remember this feeling of complete peace. And I thought, this doesn't make any sense. How am I feeling so peaceful? My mom is literally lying in my bed and dead, and she's about to get taken away. I'm never going to see her again. But I just looked everywhere, and in every tree, in everything I saw, it's a feeling. I just felt she was everywhere. And I think I uttered out loud, you're everywhere now, Mom. I get to feel you everywhere. And I just knew it to be true. I have no reason. I don't know why I even felt that. I just felt it. And I wasn't sad.
Which is so profound.
I know.
It is the feel good always.
Yeah.
It's what I talk about. I try to convey. For me, it was, I did have that feeling even initially. I was still, after Kira died.
Yeah.
It was a feeling that actually didn't make any sense because I was also dying. It's like this split part of me. I wanted to die. I welcome death at any moment. Kill me, please. Because I couldn't live through the pain, or I thought I couldn't. Anything but this, living through this experience. But there was also sitting side by side, which it is different, obviously, with somebody who's lived a long life versus a child, and my own child at that. But this feeling of connection and peace, which was like, wow, what is this?
Yeah.
And which I completely embody and live in today almost always. Which is wild because my child died, and I don't really live in what maybe other people might in the same situation, in the sense of feeling like my life is over and how do I experience any moment without her, because I'm not experiencing it without her. I'm actually, she's everywhere. And it's more than just a conceptual idea. Yeah. It's a feeling that you described, that shooting star, that constant barrage of synchronicity and signs that now it's thousands a day, but it's not just the cognitive ability to connect all the signs. It's the feeling of help. It's the people finding me in Trader Joe's to tell me, it's redefining what it means for Kira's life here on Earth. Today, it's different. It's not going to prom or graduating from high school. It's very different. It's me sitting here having this podcast. It's her showing up in the delivery. I mean, she was in the delivery room too for my grandson Cooper, which was wild experience. He was born on 11/11 at 11 a.m. with a ladybug in the room. And I could go on and on about those connections, but I was going to say in your hospital room with Sylvie. Yeah. And that it's your mom, it's Kira, it's all the angels, all the beings. It's the interconnectedness of everything. And it is through, like you speak of your mom and this experience of death without medication. It's the experience that the soul is asking to have, and your willingness to surrender to it, to surrender and to sit side by side, and all of the practices that you did with your family for your children to experience that. It eliminates that fear of death, or that the mystery, or this idea that we have that we're not going to die. And what does it even mean to die anyways? What does what does it even mean anyways? Like what I thought death meant. I was afraid of dying before Kira died, the whole year or two ahead of time. I really was having this fear that I was going to die. I think I was sensing her death. But it's like control. Like I could somehow make my children's lives perfect if I stay alive, And in Kira's death, my children that, Tyler, Maddie, Abby, and Lila experienced a horrible thing that I couldn't protect them from. And I watched them be able to, and I watched it expand them, right? And it expanded me, and my living through, something so horrible as my child dying showed me that really humans are capable of a lot. I am capable of a lot. It's not because I have some special abilities. I showed myself that we're all capable of this. And so when people come to me with really tragic things, I can have compassion, but not want to stop it for them, because it was through living through and feeling what your mom was asked to feel, what I was asked to feel, what you've been asked to feel, sitting with Sylvie, sitting with your mom. It is through living through feeling the deepest parts of what it means to be human that we allow ourselves to expand, to walk outside and to feel that peace, And I'm so grateful for the experience and the non-distraction, right?
Yeah.
Not distracting myself. And I think if the message to anybody is to be willing to feel what it means, that it will expand you, whatever it is, whether it's your own death or somebody else's death or losing a job or losing a marriage or whatever. It's like cry, You cried on the way here, right?
I cried on the way here. And I cried after, obviously, even though I had that amazing feeling, there were still so many tears.
Yes.
I had there was a moment about a month or so later where I was at a horse show with Sylvia, And I remember just being so overwhelmed because the last time I was at that particular place where the horse show was, my mom wanted so badly to come, but she was too sick she couldn't get out of the car. And I remember driving the car up so she could look out of the car and watch Sylvia do a course. And so I was just still so raw. And I had a moment where I could feel the emotion coming. And I went to a private place and I just let it out. I just started crying and crying and crying. And I had a moment where I was like, Kellie, get your act together. What are you doing? Like, pull it together. You're at your daughter's horse show. But then I quieted that. I said, no, I have to feel this. I just cried and cried and cried. And then after this release, I had that same feeling of total peace. I looked around and I was sitting under a tree and how the light was coming through and the birds and everything I was hearing and people walking their horses. And it all was so beautiful that I couldn't even believe it. I was like, how am I so blessed to live right now and experience all of this? When just moments ago I was feeling total despair and sadness and missing my mom so much. Then there's the remembering and the feeling of she's here. She's in everything.
And it's through feeling all of that and letting it move through the body instead of suppressing it and telling yourself, I'm at a horse show, I can't cry. Like, what?
No.
Your body and you're like, we're still human. And that's the thing, is this ability to actually allow ourselves to feel wherever it is. And as we all start to do that more, then I feel like we will, as a culture, start to heal more instead of suppressing and like, this is not the time for that. Well, when is? There's not a specific time to grieve and to feel the depths of that pain. And with Kira dying, I could not control it. And when you meet me in 2021, and I was going through this transformation of realizing I had been suppressing feelings forever. So that happens in 2021, which is when I start breath work and all kinds of work around myself. So when Kira dies, I don't have that. I know, I'm aware that I'm going to feel this completely. I don't think I could have controlled it anyways. But in doing that, it was so intense over and over. And if anybody who's experienced this kind of intense grief, it's relentless. It's like can't even get a breath for months on end. But it was so intense that I was like in awe of what a human can experience, which was me, and made everything else, and also kind of separated me from the experience, where I was like, wow, we really did come here to feel. It doesn't mean that I live in that space, clearly. Anybody that knows me and sees me and has been watching me, I'm not living in absolute despair, but when it comes, I feel it and then have this beautiful release, which brings me to breath work, which I talk about. I found it in 2021, a conscious breath work practice, holotropic breath, which moving through, like really just releasing it, letting whatever needs with my own body, not drugs, not anything else, but just my own body, moving grief. In the beginning, when I first started doing it, it was reliving childhood experiences. My grandmother and my cousin died at 28 years old. She came to me along with my grandmother when I was in breathwork. So I was having all these experiences. And so using breathwork eventually after Kira dies to move whatever was left of really intense grief. And to, she was coming to me during those times, showing me all kinds of things, past life stuff and all of that. But it's the same thing, like in a safe container, this breathwork practice where we come together and we do this together in community, but really on our own, to allow our consciousness to bring forth what needs to come, our subconscious, and then that's beautiful release after. And so the reason I bring all of that up is because you have been practicing this breathwork practice recently, and it's been really beautiful to witness. And you just had an experience with the breath work, which is similar to, so the breath work can do it, but we do it in our lives too. It's just like a really amazing place to have other stuff that needs to come through. And I know you've had several really amazing experiences, and it's like our lives are just fascinating right now. So
many. And it's what I love about it is I never know what will come up.
Yeah.
And just to be open and to surrender and to trust.
Yeah.
Whatever will come up.
So first, for anybody that's listening, this breathwork practice, it's based on holotropic breath. That's the trademark name, where we've been calling it like breathwork for freedom, because it really is for freedom. But it's about 30 minutes of active breath and then more like a slowing down of the breath. But it's about an hour and we get together and do this. And so you've showed up multiple times to these. And so I know the last time you had a pretty amazing experience.
Yeah, they've all been incredible. And Kiara has come to me in
Yeah.
breath. My mom several times. My mom, grandmother, and great grandma have come in the last two, one before last. Yeah, and in the last one, I had a feeling of my whole body being cleaned out and making room, like all the little the I should back up. The breath work before, I was being told I had to go down into the underworld. My mom and my grandma and great grandma were telling me I need to stay down and I need to feel more, and I had to feel more. And so I've been reflecting a lot and I've been feeling a lot. So much has come up. I found old journals, so many old things since my mom's passing. So that's been really, I've been really living in the experiences that that whole matrilineal lineage has been, that I've been received, you know. And so in this last practice, it was this cleaning out, and I could actually really feel it. I could feel the little darkness in little areas being kind of swept out, and then this light, just being filled with light. And it was so beautiful, and having this column of light through my spine that's reaching up into the heavens and down into the earth, and the overwhelming feeling. It was all just a feeling of total peace, total calm, being completely anchored and grounded. And it's just so beautiful to get those messages, to receive that. I'm so grateful for this practice.
And what I love about this is this merged consciousness, because so I'm facilitating this. You share this experience that you've had of seeing this column of light coming through, that we're really all connected, all one, but it's anchoring you into the earth, right? Which is the exact vision that I got at the beginning before you guys started your practice, when we sat there and we do a little meditation with cacao ahead of time. So I saw the same thing, this light, anchoring and all the beings that were helping us. And then afterwards you describe it. I'm like, yeah, that's what I saw too, which is, I just love it when we share these experiences. And it's truly a feeling. So you have this beautiful experience that just really opens you up to the awe and wonder. And then what is it, like 24 hours later?
Oh, yeah.
It's just interesting.
I know.
So share what happens after, which I want to be clear, this is not a result of the breath work. It could be, but it's not. When I say it could be, I say everything is the result of something.
Yeah.
But it's not a physical 3-dimensional reason that this happened. This is just something that happened in your life right afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. I was feeling so deeply connected to my body and so confident in my body, so grateful for my body. And confident is the word. I was just like, yes, this body, And then I go to bed the night after feeling completely fine. I get into bed, I did some reading, I did some journaling. And as I'm trying to fall asleep, I start noticing my feet feel a little itchy, and I just was feeling uncomfortable. I was like, what's going on? And it felt like within 5 minutes, I was in full-blown hives, full-blown, like my tongue is numbing, my lips are numbing.
Which is scary.
It was very scary because this had happened once to me before, 2 months before my mom passed. And so I just had thought that was stress. That never happened to me before. I had other things going on with family too at the time. And so for this to happen in this moment where I was feeling so anchored and calm and good and healthy and vibrant, I woke up my husband in a panic. He was sound asleep, and I was like, I'm having an anaphylactic response, and I need your help. And telling him where the Benadryl is, and can you please, because I'm shaking at this point, and my body is literally, it felt like my body was rejecting me. It was this, I started having terrible cramps, like almost labor pains, because the body is like wanting to start expelling. It's like whatever is in there, we want it to get out, like get it out. And so I ended up, on the toilet.
Yeah.
In total agony and just expelling. And it was so intense. It lasted about an hour and a half. It was like, do we call the ambulance sort of situation? But no, like just really tuning in. And what a humbling experience to literally be naked on the floor of our bathroom 10:30 at night, just it completely convulsing and just being like, wow.
And to try to connect it to this breath work, like where you felt like really empowered in your body.
Yeah.
So you messaged me about this, and I feel like, okay, I always say this on here. Kira says to me, you're going to need to help people when the change comes. Which, what does that mean? I mean, it can mean a lot of things. I feel like I do know what it means. But what I know is what I've experienced. And all I can do is share what I've experienced. What I've experienced is as we move into these higher levels of consciousness and connection, there is a lot of light that you envisioned coming through. My consciousness has expanded beyond anything that I could have ever imagined. And that's my consciousness that is infinite, that now my body, Becky Bradley, is actually experiencing this massive consciousness, which means my vibration is really high, and it continues to, but my body has to get used to holding all of this as I'm being expanded. I still am in a human body. And so what I have experienced is a lot of physical stuff in the body that, like kind of like you're talking about. I say vacating, right? Kira uses the word vacating. Vacating can mean, some people think dying. Yeah, that could be a form. But really what it means is, for me, it could be vacating parts of me, energy, things that are not true, belief systems, but also physically vacating, like literally like on the toilet, throwing up everything, because right before my grandson was born on 11/11/11, 24 hours ahead of time, that's what I was doing. Like everything in my body for no reason, but I've been doing this for enough time to know that there was a reason, like what my body was clearing ahead of his birth. Just out of nowhere. And my body has done lots of things. Like I've been sick more than I've ever been in my life physically. Well, that makes sense. And it's not because of grief. I mean, that could be a part of it, but it's really because I am being expanded so much that this body is trying to make its way through. And I've watched other people around have the same thing. That doesn't mean that you don't get medication. That doesn't mean that you don't go to the hospital if you need to. But it's just a knowing, even my daughter's appendix bursting. I have a deep knowing that that was something that had to happen for her energetically. She's also, raising in consciousness. So it's like, that maybe when I say help people when the change comes, that when you say something to me like that, I can say, that's your body vacating. It's the body, maybe that experience that you had with that vacating is making room for more, and it's, like I said, just for anyone, it doesn't mean that you don't call the ambulance if you need the ambulance, but it means that it's like getting curious about what is this, and that my experience, that's all I could share. My experience is that my body has had a harder time, and that means more taking care of my body, more listening, more quiet, more surrendering control. Being empowered in my body does not mean that it works exactly as I want it to. It does not mean that I'm perfect. That's not what that means.
Yeah, you're not suddenly a superhero.
I mean, I do believe in the power, like you told Sylvie, your body will do what it needs to. And I believe that wholeheartedly. That could mean not what Becky thinks it needs to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's just a beautiful lesson that we continue to listen and to look at our lives as what are you showing me? And yes, there definitely, at least in my little life algorithm, people around me are experiencing physical things in their bodies that they weren't before. And it's probably always been happening. I'm just really aware, and yes, I've been getting sick like every 5 to 6 weeks. Actually, I haven't since my grandson was born.
Yeah.
I can't control it. If I'm going to, then I'm going to. And I think also I've been expanded. Yeah. So I've been expanded to hold more and more and more. But in the beginning, it was like, this is a lot. This is a lot on the human body, this vessel that has come here to carry this wisdom through, to anchor this light so that we could all rise into these higher levels of consciousness, which is kind of exciting. As we, wrap this up, I wanted to just ask 2 things. First of all, thank you so much for all of this that you've said and you've shared. And I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you, because you just carry such wisdom, and just side by side that we're all doing this together, and we find our people. And that's what I always say, find your people that are doing the same and living in the same energy frequency. What we usually ask, like, what if you would give advice to people, really just to live in this peace that you live in? That's the first question. And the second question is, how What does feel good always mean to you?
Yeah, I want to about finding your people. I want to speak to that too because it is so important throughout this journey. And I'm so grateful for my husband because he's my person, and we can speak and understand each other. But throughout this journey, there have been so many times I have these moments, and I'm so excited to share with loved ones who maybe if I had an experience with my mom or my grandmother. I had an experience before my mom passed where I met her mom in a meditation, and it was so healing, and it was so surprised. So much happened. And I remember going to my mom so excited, and my mom she couldn't meet me where I was. And it was really hard. Even and when the twins were born, and I saw family coming to their birth, it was a cesarean. It was very scary. And I remember telling her about that too. Like, oh my gosh, grandma was there and grandpa was there. And they had all this light surrounding them and they were so excited. And it couldn't be received. And it's hard. It's hard when you're sharing these things that are so profound. And for me, I started thinking, oh, maybe I just made that up. Maybe that wasn't real. And I've learned now to not believe that. I have this term righteous belief. I just have righteous belief in the things I feel and the things I see, and I know them to be true. And so I just wanted to share that. And it's so important to have people like you.
Well, we find each other. It's so beautiful, righteous belief. Mm-hmm. And I know what you're talking about. Yeah. We were actually talking about it before this podcast, that you will meet people, especially as we start sharing about connecting with people on the other side, knowing things, all the things that we've described in this podcast today. When you share these things, people might look at you like you're crazy, or you meet like almost, I call it like a frequency mismatch. And that's okay. What I did was like maybe not talk to that person as much, but I found people, and now I swear everywhere I go, it's like everyone is talking about this, but I believe that is my frequency calling in the people, that I'm not afraid to speak it from anywhere. And but just because someone doesn't meet you doesn't mean that what you are experiencing is not real. Yeah. And that's what you're saying. So important. That you now know it doesn't matter. Yeah. Yes, I had the same. Well, maybe, when people start questioning what you're saying, it does make you question it, but really anchoring into that righteous belief of this is my experience and I don't need scientific proof or you to believe me. Yeah. I actually don't, which is so amazing because I'm like, I don't care if you believe
they were
me.
there for me.
Yeah, like no one could tell me. There's not a person on this earth that could tell me that this is my experience. Yeah. Which is way more than any kind of science that I could read in a book. This is not something in a book. It's an experience. Yeah. And when someone else has it, they will remember that you talked to them about it. Yeah. And maybe it will be beyond death. Like in your mother's case, we're not in control of when they experience it. We're just having our own experience. Yeah. So
yeah, absolutely.
I love the righteous belief.
Yeah, thank you. And as far as the calm, like if you talk to my children, they would just laugh because they're like, Mom is not calm. I can be a little fiery sometimes, and I certainly get triggered, regularly, especially by my children. But I do have things that bring me back to center, that anchor me. And I think the biggest thing, well, there's a few. Getting out in nature is a quick, even just stepping out and getting fresh air and just finding a place to sit and be. That's the easiest place to connect with my mom, is for sure. Well, especially in the beginning, was out in nature. But another thing I sometimes do is I'll just lie, whether it's on the couch, on my bed, on the ground, ideally outside, but sometimes I'm not outside, and just lie flat on my back. And just close my eyes and breathe and surrender. It's just like I just let myself feel weightless. And I can so quickly go to where I feel like I'm floating in the ocean, and I'm in the middle of a big lake or ocean, and there's nothing else there, and I'm just floating, and it's complete surrender. And that is something that I can do like that just anchors me. It makes me feel so peaceful and calm. And the last thing is music. It's like just turning on some good high vibe music and moving my body music is medicine. So, and movement and music is medicine. So those are my ways that I connect to the calm. Breathing, obviously, too. Just like that, connecting. If you can't lay down, just closing the eyes and breathing and connecting to the heart, to my belly. Yeah. And then the feel good always is it's all about feeling for me. It's that moment at the horse show. To me it was the message that I received when I was writing my mom's eulogy too. It's through feeling the sorrow, through feeling the heartache, that I've gotten to experience my mom in a way that I never even knew her when she was on earth. because when you're a parent child, there's relationship dynamics, there's so much love, but there's so much other stuff. And my mom and I certainly had that. There was stuff. And when she was no longer here and I allowed myself to feel and get out of those stories that we had with each other and just feel her and feel the sorrow and feel the grief, I suddenly saw my mom as such a pure being that I never even knew. I mean, I knew, but I didn't. It was such an interesting experience. And my brother and I were talking, and he had the same experience. It's like we feel like we know our mom better now than we ever did, which doesn't make sense.
It's not in the physical world, but it does make sense.
Yes.
It makes sense because we're so multidimensional.
Yeah.
The same thing with Kira. It's like Kira that is connecting to you in that hospital room and me now. And through the transmissions that I share on this podcast. Yes, Kira on Earth was a beautiful, expansive soul, but I mean, it's way beyond that.
Totally. And same with my mom, such a powerful being.
Yeah.
You know, and so the feel good always is like being able to tap into that. And what's been so cool is taking that and seeing, well, if I know this about my mom now, I know this about you. I know this about my children. I know this about everybody. And so it's like you're just seeing everybody, even people you maybe villainize or you don't like things about them or, you know. And I feel like I was sort of able to tap, like, I remember as a young child being like Saddam Hussein, this is totally unrelated, but being like, I wonder what he was like as a baby. Did he have a mom? What was his life like? And so I don't know. I just feel like we can start to see everybody as these expansive souls. Like we're so pure and we're so beautiful. And we have all these kind of boxes we put ourselves in the world, but we're so much more. And getting the experience of being able to feel that into that with my mom now just ripples out into how I show up in the world. And I just am so grateful for the feel good always.
It's so good, everything you just said. It's like, I feel like the world needs it more now than ever. We need to hear this message of exactly what you said. It's like experiencing really the death and the pain of losing someone close to you like you have, and to see how expansive they are. And I love what you just said is, can I look at everybody like that? If Kira is this expansive, isn't this other person that I've decided is wrong? Everyone, everywhere we go. And that reminder, I think that if anybody takes anything from what they've listened to today, it's what you said right there. I mean, I know I'm going to take that. Because I can know all of these things and try to embody this truth, but we need constant reminders that every person, every sentient being is that expansive soul, that only love is real. That means we all come from source, every single one of us, and that we find each other like you and I have to keep reminding each other. So thank you for reminding me today.
Thank you for being my constant reminder.
Yeah, and this has been really beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I love you.
Love you too.
Yeah, and for all those that are listening, if you haven't followed the show in whatever podcast app or on YouTube, please do that now. It helps push it out there and it helps you not miss another episode. And until next time.